When I tweeted that I thought it was fine for it to be in Spanish, did you not retweet posts like digging at me for that?
Yeah, absolutely I did. I think it's a cultural change. I think that there was a lot of gaslighting.
I think that Bad Bunny is a patriotic American. I thought the halftime show was rather impressive, kind of whiny to be like, I can't believe he wouldn't speak our language, even though we don't have a national language.
The increasing sentiment on the right seems to be kind of reminiscent of that snowflake mentality. Do you agree with that? Are Republicans the new snowflakes? That's what I was left wondering after a fairly widespread meltdown among MAGA commentators after Bad Bunny's Spanish language Super Bowl performance.
To get up there and perform the whole show in Spanish is a middle finger to the rest of America. This is supposed to be a unifying event for the country, not for the Latinos.
That's a super normal level of anger to feel about a halftime show. Meanwhile, multiple Republican lawmakers have called for a federal investigation into the NFL and NBC over Bad Bunny's halftime performance, falsely claiming it depicted gay pornography. I must have missed that part, and claiming the show was disgusting and illegal. Now, these lawmakers push this claim in part by citing some of Bad Bunny's admittedly very vulgar lyrics in his songs, but importantly, these were not the lyrics actually performed during the Super Bowl, which were cleaned up and somewhat adapted. More importantly, it's totally fine to not like Bad Bunny or to even have found his performance distasteful. It's also fine to have chosen to tune in to Turning Point USA's halftime alternative instead. But acting as if somebody singing in Spanish for a few minutes is an attack on American identity, rather than a reflection of part of it, or pretending that Americans who are fully capable of changing the channel or turning off the TV need to be protected from risque dancing by the federal government, all of this is just snowflake. And it is exactly the same kind of safe space nonsense that my entire political career Republicans have claimed to stand against. I had hoped we were done with the ridiculous, hypersensitive era of political correctness, but it increasingly seems like we're getting more of the same thing, but this time it's MAGA-flavored patriotic correctness. And if you ask me, it still sucks. Of course, that's just my take, and the debate on all of this is really just beginning. Joining me to discuss it all is liberal YouTuber Adam Mockler and conservative commentator and Daily Signal writer Tony Kinnett. Let's get into it. All right, guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you,
Happy
Tony.
to be here.
Tony, I'll start with you. Tell me why it is exactly that you object to Bad Bunny's Spanish language halftime performance.
Well, I mean, right off the top of the bat, I don't usually go for watching halftime shows, no matter really who it is. I tuned into a little bit of the Turning Point halftime show because I thought I'd like to see what it was they tried to accomplish. And I did go back and sit through the Bad Bunny halftime show, given that I spent a lot of time in Hispanic households, speak fluent Spanish, and I wanted to see the stuff that Bad Bunny was going to bring out and provide. I was impressed with the stagecraft of it. I don't think that I have maybe the same criticisms that a lot of the right do. A lot of people, as you pointed out in your opening monologue, really took this to heart. And I was kind of surprised. I haven't really paid close attention to a halftime show since Katy Perry and the Left Shark of a couple of years ago. So yeah, the calling into investigation and stuff and the gay pornography rhetoric, I think is silly. Now, do I think it was a really pro-America halftime show as was painted by a lot of folks on the left? No. Do I think that it was like super pro-United States and that there was an incredible own about being Americans at the end or the handing the Grammy to fake Liam? I thought that was silly and performative, but it's a celebrity-based halftime show. I thought that we'd kind of come to expect that at this point. So was I all in on like, wow, what a great performance? No. I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that I spoke to who are better at listening to Spanish, rapid fire, very quick Spanish than I am, couldn't really understand it either. It's kind of an accent that really didn't even go over well among a lot of Puerto Ricans, but Kendrick Lamar's not really good at articulating during rapping either, and that's in English. So I just thought it was meh as a halftime show. I know that's maybe not the searing hot anti-halftime show take maybe that you were expecting.
Well, I'm just curious, and Adam, I'll come to you in 1 second. But when I tweeted that I thought it was fine for it to be in Spanish, did you not retweet posts like digging at me for that?
Yeah, absolutely I did. I think it's a cultural change. And I think the painting that it is an American culture that is changing over time and that's fine is a little bit of a gaslight, I think. The idea that, oh, well, we've just morphed into becoming a predominantly Central American Hispanic variety culture. No, those things can coincide. Americana culture can coincide. For example, the North kind of New England culture coincides also with the kind of Southern y'all folksy culture, with also alongside the Midwestern Ope culture to the Hispanic cultures that are very different, from Cuba to Nicaragua to immigrants from all the way down at the bottom of South America, excluding Belize, although Bad Bunny certainly didn't, all the way up to the U.S. I would say I think that there was a lot of gaslighting. That's what I was criticizing primarily.
Okay, Adam, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that Bad Bunny is a patriotic American. I thought the halftime show was rather impressive, and it was centered around unity rather than divisiveness. The banner behind him said, "Love is stronger than hate," or something to that effect. And for that, conservatives treated him viciously. People from Donald Trump said this was a slap in the face to America. People were calling for his deportation. Jake Paul and a bunch of other people called him a fake American, which none of this even makes sense. Where are you going to deport him to? Puerto Rico? He's a fake American because he's from Puerto Rico. So, of course, I'm not going to pin all of these beliefs on Tony. That wouldn't be fair at all. But there were definitely some reactions that were hyper-racialized. Like, they were very clearly mad at one thing, and it wasn't that Bad Bunny vaguely criticized ICE at the Grammys. I mean, the anti-ICE activism that people are really, really mad about, Bad Bunny said, "We are not savages, we are not animals, we are humans, and we are Americans." So Bad Bunny had overall a rather unifying message. When he said, "God bless," during the Super Bowl halftime show, he didn't say, "God bless Latin America, God bless other countries." He said, "God bless America." It seems like overall, he wanted to push a unifying message, and conservatives took that to tear him down and divide us even more. If you didn't like the halftime show, that's fine. I mean, like, my grandpa sometimes, he thought it was cool, but he's sometimes like, I don't really fully understand what's going on here. That's fine if you don't like the halftime show. But I think the vitriol that we saw coming out of the right was next level. I'm not going to claim the halftime show is super pro-America, as Tony said. I don't think the halftime show has to be super pro-America, but I think all things considered, him saying, "God bless America," him speaking out against ICE at the Grammys, this is about as American as apple pie. I mean, criticizing the government in America, very American in my opinion. So,
Tony, I'm guessing you see that slightly differently.
Yeah, I do, because what follows after "God bless America," which again, the one Spanish phrase in the show, not even, Dios bendiga America, he then followed by listing not the United States of America, or again saying, hey, you know what, I'm, from the left on this, but I still love America. American flags, kind of a Charlie Puth at the beginning. Can we agree the national anthem at the beginning was just incredible?
of course, yeah, he's like auto-tune. He's like an auto-tune human being. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, he's a guy with perfect pitch. And a jazz musician. I love watching any talk he gives ever. It's just like I go glass-eyed. It's incredible. Regarding Bad Bunny, though, he's followed "God Bless America" by then listing a bunch of countries that aren't America. It's the North and South America. What he's trying to suggest is that we're all Americans. That's not what the Super Bowl is about. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's not a pan-American competition sport. I mean, to be completely honest, given the cultural history of it, it would be more appropriate for something like that at the World Series. And I understand the cultural backlash to that because it's performative, not because it's bad to suggest that it's, an amazing thing that we've created in the Western Hemisphere, but more so to say, hey, I'm going to get out here and be performative, and I'm going to throw some jabs, and then what you get is a bunch of gaslighting from both sides. For example, some of the stuff that came out from the left, some that came out from the right that hated it, right? I think you cited, Jake Paul, slit my wrists, but also some of the other folks on the other side of the right who were like, well, John Kasich, well, actually, I thought it was a, what do you say, home run, grand slam. It sounded like he was trying to make up a Denny's breakfast special. It was just awkward all around, and it feels like the Super Bowl's just become a gaslighting festival anymore.
Do you think
But Tony,
do you think acknowledging Latin American identity or Latin American history is inherently anti-American? Because I
No.
feel like these two things.
No,
So I don't
didn't
get
say
what
that.
Yeah, I don't get what the problem is here. He waved the American flag. He said, "God bless America." I mean, Trump has been arguing for the past few months this like Don Rowe doctrine that the Western Hemisphere is essentially
Under the fatherhood of America's paternity.
that America is essentially the father of the Western Hemisphere.
Sure.
So for then Bad Bunny to invoke the Western Hemisphere is anti-American?
No, I'm not saying that, but I do have a question, if I may. ¿Por qué no estamos teniendo esta conversación en español?
No, I can't
Well,
conversate.
because I only minored in Tony in Spanish, and it's been a couple years.
So,
But I would prefer not to.
Did you
the
ask him if I
reason-
could conversate in Espanol though?
The reason that we are
why aren't
not
we having
currently having this
in
conversation in Spanish is because the audience that we will be releasing this particular panel to, the vast, vast majority of them speak English. And the same with the NFL. Again, notice that I said that this would have been perhaps more appropriate given the cultural history and participation of other countries in the World Series. But instead, it's at the NFL, which is the very Americana cultural festival point. It's a very American, United States of American sporting event. I'm not saying it's evil or un-American. I'm just saying it's out of place and performative with some clear undertones of what was trying to be accomplished. It doesn't suit the venue.
So is there a problem?
disagreed.
Do you have sorry, Tony, do you have a problem with him singing in Spanish at the Super Bowl?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is I think that the audience choice is weird. Why choose to sing in only Spanish except for the words "God Bless America" at the Super Bowl for the halftime show? What is the point in
songs
doing
are
so?
predominantly in Spanish. And
Why do you say predominantly?
The official language of Puerto Rico is both English and Spanish. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, so he's representing Puerto Rico by speaking the language that his songs are written in. He's a Puerto Rican artist, and I guess the idea that him speaking Spanish during this halftime show was some intentional dig or some anti-American dig, even though he very specifically said "God Bless America" in English. I just don't
followed it up with a list of countries to identify what he meant by America.
Did you take that as divisive or unifying? I think that was more.
I took that to mean that he
unification.
believes the word America doesn't mean the United States as it's culturally perceived here in the United States of America.
Was he holding a football with an American flag?
Again, I'm saying that he listed a lot of countries alongside it as a broader cultural statement. And again, as far as the Spanish, I have no issue with him speaking or singing in Spanish. As someone who is, again, fluent in Spanish and lived in and out of Hispanic households, working alongside phenomenally what I consider a lot of traditionally conservative families that have been beyond beneficial for this country in family policy and work ethic, for example, that I was able to learn in Honduran and Nicaraguan households. But specifically in this Super Bowl, I am only questioning when you do an entire Super Bowl in the language that is opposite of the core language of 99% of the viewership. Now that is
99%.
I don't actually have the data in front of me. It says 99%.
Like 20% of Americans are Latino, I think. I mean,
you do realize that 20% doesn't all speak Spanish, right?
No, this is a real population in America. I mean,
you do realize that 20% isn't all like Spanish first language.
That's not what I'm saying.
40 to 50 million people who speak Spanish in America.
I'm saying representation is not some crazy dig at English. It's just representing a real portion of Americans.
If he would have sang a song or two in Spanish or I thought the wedding was beautiful and phenomenal. That kind of stuff, the imagery was wonderful. But to do the entire show in only Spanish, except for the phrase, "God Bless America," then followed by a bunch of countries after a Hispanic cultural celebration listing countries that, a couple of which have nothing to do with Hispanic culture or imposition at all. It came off as very strange and, again, forced. I'm not assigning cultural, moral good or evil here. I'm saying that it was clearly, there was an element of this that was very politically performative, especially
Bad
given
Bunny
the
have any
commissioner's
English
early remarks.
songs?
Does he? I'm not a Bad Bunny aficionado.
Bad Bunny does not have full-length English songs. He'll occasionally use English tongue, but he mainly performs in Spanish. So it sounds like Bad Bunny gave a performance that aligns with the hundreds of other he's given as the largest. One of the largest artists in the world. He's probably one of the top few. So he's just giving a performance that not only represents a very real contingent of Americans, 40 to 50 million people that speak Spanish, he also specifically said "God Bless America" while holding a football with an American flag. And the idea that he should have, did you want him to perform like a Kid Rock song in English? He doesn't have any songs in English. He doesn't.
Well, that's not true. Again, you just said that while he does, in fact, use English language in many of his songs, predominantly a lot of his songs are in Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm simply making the point that if you are going to address a large audience in a halftime show towards the United States of America, that speaking in or singing in just partly, in the language of the majority of the audience that you are addressing makes cultural sense in what is essentially a cultural celebration of these United States. That's what the Super Bowl's kind of been ever since it was the reindeer, the people dressed as reindeer dancing on the torn up field, back in the older Super Bowls. So I guess what I'm not trying to make some broad sweeping like, oh, he's deeply un-American. I'm saying he made a political point by doing this.
I don't know
what bragging, that and bragging about.
So it's a political point to perform his songs as they were written. I don't understand. Like,
he does choose the songs that he performs, right?
And he chose his 3 or 4 most popular songs across the entire globe. I don't agree with this idea that because he spoke in a way that is not because he spoke in Spanish and that is not the predominant language of America, that somehow has friction with the culture. How many Super Bowl halftime shows have we had? Like dozens and dozens of dozens, where people give a diverse amount of performances. We've had everyone from Kendrick Lamar to Michael Jackson, who stood there for multiple minutes on stage, Frozen, remember? So, I mean, the idea that because we have one Super Bowl halftime show that represents, a different portion of the country and still represents our country too, like, I'm not even going to concede that he was excluding people who speak English from this. He waved the American flag. He said, God bless America. We had American traditions being shown, or I guess Western traditions like marriage being shown here. It was a pretty overall unifying show. I don't mean to be mean here, but I feel it's like kind of whiny to be like, I can't believe he wouldn't speak our language, even though we don't have a national language. He was representing the way he wrote the songs.
Guys, I want to zoom out here a little bit because obviously at the end of the day, it's just Bad Bunny. Unfortunately, there's been this national crash out over it from Republican members of Congress and the president, Megyn Kelly and beyond. I wonder, though, Tony, if you are willing to acknowledge this or if you deny this. I sense, zooming out here, a broader snowflake problem on the MAGA right now, right? Whether it is Bad Bunny and being outraged, whether it's demanding that people come before Congress, or whether it's freaking out and retaliating against the Associated Press because they're not going to use Gulf of America. I am sensing, and I'm hearing from a lot of people, that a lot of the increasing sentiment on the right seems to be kind of reminiscent of that snowflake mentality. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there is a portion of the right, especially kind of the more populist part of the right, that is leaning into that. There is a group, I would say, kind of more at large, that is suggesting that now that the right is in power, that it needs to play by the same rules that the left played by during the Biden administration. So, for example, the Daily Signal, which I'm the national correspondent for, was kicked out of the White House press room during the Biden administration. And this was something that we obviously tried, very hard to rectify. And they did the exact same thing with the Associated Press that the Trump administration is doing now, which, by the way, I disagreed with. I think the Associated Press, like all other news outlets, should be in the White House. Again, I also, regarding kind of their pool selection, I was happy to see Axios finally added to that pool selection instead of a bunch of publications, many of which don't service the broader, kind of country as a whole, to our earlier conversation. But regarding this idea that now everything needs to be performative, yeah, I'm really against a lot of that. This is one of the reasons why I was so much more a fan of, for example, Tom Homan, or maybe even some elements. Again, I have a couple asterisks there with Scott Bessent, particularly Brooke Rollins. I also quite like a lot of her approaches. A lot of Secretary of State Rubio's, the disapproving, kind of disappointed dad when the nonsense arises. It's much more effective as a political tactic. Biden was able to use this very effectively a couple of times. And when he did, instead of the crazy phone that certain other members of his administration would tend to pick up and use, or again, Congress with its committees on camera has just devolved into a circus from hell. Yeah, I think there is a portion of the right that's adopting to that, although I do have hopes that there is some of that is kind of on its way out. The age of influencers is starting to ebb.
Adam, your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, to be fair, we had it on our side. We had people who wanted their safe spaces. I don't fully buy into the idea that there's a parallel between the way Trump has treated the media and Biden has treated the media. I think Trump has ramped it up a few notches, but Trump himself said, you said there's a growing contingent of people who hopefully aren't acting in this way. Trump himself was the one that really freaked out about this on Truth Social. He said, nobody understands a word this guy is saying. The dancing is disgusting. The show is a slap in the face to our country. I think 48 hours after this, he posted a video of Obama and his wife as gorillas. I think the president has to lead in a top-down manner in order to tone down the divisiveness in this country. Could you agree with that Trump might be uniquely divisive in this moment?
Do I think that Trump is uniquely divisive? I do, given that he's a Hollywood entertainment guy who comments on Hollywood entertainment things. I mean, ever since he came down the golden escalator, he's been very out there he's willing to get and throw stones.
He's a Hollywood entertainer, but he's also the president of the United States. These words mean a lot. I'm 23 years old, and I've always wanted to look to the president as someone who I can, look up to as a beacon of moral clarity. Mm-hmm. And when he's posting gorilla AI images of former presidents, he's calling for the arrest of J.B. Pritzker. Which I live in the state of Illinois.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, I didn't know you were in Illinois. Oh,
yeah.
I'm right next door to you in Indiana. I was getting ready to say, we're right next. We'll have to grab lunch sometime.
Yeah, I grew up in Valpo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sorry, keep going. Keep debating.
Oh, no. Sorry. I've attended a couple football games in Valpo. Great place. Anyway, aside from the Midwesterners finding each other in the middle of a debate, in this context regarding Trump, no, I understand the idea and the desire to look up to the president of the United States, absolutely. But I believe that one of the best descriptions of Trump has been he is in fact a product of the political dissociation of the time, meaning that as things continued, we had these two essential groups in the country. Kind of the older guard. You could maybe equate Biden to this, maybe not on the left. On the right, you had some Republican senators and representatives that essentially would just say, let's not get hasty about anything. And they never really took an emotional stance on anything. They never were willing to call out things that, for example, we've seen AOC call out from the left side of the party, or from the right side, the many now very loud voices who have called out things that they don't appreciate on the cultural side as well as the economic side. And Trump, because so much of the aughts into the early teens were a clamping down, nothing is wrong, everything is fine, let's not get hasty, that eventually Trump, who had the platform and the performance to get out there and do things with a sledgehammer, meant that America elected the sledgehammer. And I don't always like the sledgehammer. There are times I prefer a scalpel. But to claim that this is somehow, well, Trump needs to act more presidential. Sure. Do I wish the president would put the phone down? Yeah. Do I wish he'd watch videos all the way to the end? So if he just wants to post some weird election fraud video from Detroit, he posts that instead of the ending screen cap where just 1 second is the gross video auto-played behind it. Sure. I would love that. But again, a symptom of the time that America elected a boisterous guy to knock things over because America was tired of the way that things have been done for 20, 30 years in the country. I can't change that. That's an objective reality.
I think it's almost reverse. And I'm going to bring this back to Bad Bunny in just one moment. But
sure.
Donald Trump is, yes, a symptom of an American system that was failing the average voter. And I do agree that he did come and purge the Republican Party of like neocons or people who were more risk averse. Absolutely. In fact, the Democratic Party is still very risk averse. I think the Democrats need someone who's a little bit less risk averse. But that's different than what Trump is doing. The way that Trump, yet you wish that he would not post guerrilla videos of former presidents, but I wish that he wouldn't be posting AI images of Chicago being invaded with Black Hawk helicopters going over. I'm living and working in Chicago. I don't like to see that type of imagery. I wish he wouldn't be calling for the arrest of governors. He called Tim Walz a retard. I just don't think this is the way that you should operate as the president, and to just chalk it up as him being a little bit divisive or a little bit. So to bring this back to Bad Bunny,
go ahead.
Bad Bunny had a show where the background said love is stronger than hate. That's the only thing I've written down. It just says love is strong. I don't know why I wrote that down.
The Levi Jeans banner at the top of the stadium.
Sorry, what's up?
The Levi Jeans banner at the top of the stadium. Love is stronger than hate.
It sounds like love is stronger than hate. Okay. Yeah, and Donald Trump's reaction was that was a slap in the face to the country.
So this is where I would argue that a lot of that framing is a form of gaslighting. There are a lot of people in the country on both sides of the political aisle who, out in front, when they choose to, they will put on the face of, I am a respectable politician. You see this in committee, right? Where we just saw, for example, with Pam Bondi, both sides, complete train wreck, Republicans, Democrats, Bondi, all of them acted like children. Almost every single person in that committee room acted like a child. And what's always right there at the front, and this is why I point this out as gaslighting, is that once they're tired of the theatrics, what do they start doing? They take off their screaming. They've been yelling at each other. They go, Mr. Chairman, if we will return to Robert's Rules of Order number 542, they did not address me as the representative from the great state or wherever. That's nonsense. Either you are going to be serious or we're going to allow the facade of the structured American politician to have a level of leniency. And again, I point that out because you can't have it where Biden is, cracking jokes about ice cream and other things like a normal person, and then turn around and then be called ridiculous, doddering old fool. No humanity, has to be stately president, and then turn around all of a sudden when he is a stately president and then criticize that as being fake. I think that there are some double standards of gaslighting. The love is hate thing, or stronger than hate, in this particular Super Bowl thing, that's gaslighting. It's that if you don't claim that this is all love and wonderful, then therefore you must be for hate.
What was hateful about it?
I don't futz with that. I'm
It
the
is
point
all
that
love.
I'm
It was
making.
very lovely. But I guess I have a question for you. I think you're the one doing the gaslighting in this moment. I guess a very simple
Shock
question.
of shocks.
Yeah, no, I mean, we disagree on that. But
Right.
when Donald Trump entered U.S. politics, one of his mainstream entrances into U.S. politics, and I hope you guys would agree, was him claiming that President Obama wasn't born in America. That was one of his big issues in about 2011, 2012.
True.
As he was ramping up. Yeah, 4 years before he ran. A few months ago, he said that Rob Reiner died of Trump derangement syndrome. Can you point to me any Democrat that has done something as divisive as either of those things I pointed out 15 years apart, the birtherism or the Rob Reiner comment? Has Biden or Obama or any Democrat in power done anything like that, or are you the one gaslighting?
No, I'd point to several Democrat congressmen and women who have said equally gross things regarding the sexual abuse of certain members over on the right. I could point, of course, to the mockery of, for example, the violence against Rand Paul, the tut-tutting about that. Of course, I could point to the comments made by certain congresswomen about 9/11
What was your
and
first
Islamic
example,
terror
Tony?
Who
attacks.
mocked Rand Paul again?
Well, hang on. Let's talk about these one at a time. Tony, what was the
Sure.
first thing you mentioned? Could you say specifically what you're talking about?
Yeah, so specifically, over the last couple of years, there have been calls for members of Congress to, for example, denounce certain acts against, for example, federal law enforcement. And you've had individuals who have claimed, for example, like Maxine Waters, that you need to get out there and that you need to intervene with federal law enforcement. You need to get in their faces. That, again, she laughed when asked at one point about the death of an Indiana congresswoman. I remember that vividly because I knew Jackie Walorski very well. I found that to be particularly gross. As far as, again, the mocking of individuals who had been killed in the line of duty, the members of Congress, for example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez waving off the deaths of American soldiers down at the border.
These are platitudes. When did AOC wave off the deaths? When did Democrats wave off the deaths of people who are
all right, to be clear and to be fair, I don't have a Microsoft Excel list of all of these events in particular.
I was gaslighting you about divisiveness in America, but I just gave you two good examples that we can all agree on.
Yes, you gave me two examples of the president of the United States. Absolutely. And then you said, can you name any over on the left? And I listed from the top of my mind, these are things that do, in fact, come to my mind particularly.
They were platitudes. There were no real examples. Like Rand Paul. Can you go back to the Rand Paul one?
Yeah.
Who made fun of Rand Paul?
Yeah. So regarding Rand Paul, so Rand Paul was attacked by a
neighbor. Yeah.
And then the Senator Tim Kaine, right? Kaine of Virginia, about a month and a half later, made a passing joke about hoping that he didn't get attacked by anybody walking out of his house. That's kind of a gross thing to say.
Yeah, I don't think that you should make jokes like that, but I think that what Trump has done, I think that that's like a grain of sand on a beach, what Tim Kaine said. And what Donald Trump has done is created the whole beach. Donald Trump has a sandcastle of division that he has built about Rob Reiner to Obama being a birther and everything in between. I mean, Maxine Waters shouldn't have said, get in the face of Trump supporters. Yeah, but the idea that these two are equally divisive is wild. And again, I want to keep bringing this back to the Bad Bunny show. I just think the Republicans are the ones that are acting uniquely divisive after this in a top-down way. When it was a show that was centered around unity, and Republicans are calling, not all Republicans, I'm not saying everyone's being divisive, but when Republicans are taking this divisive stance, it's a pattern that I see time and time again. What
about a Virginia Attorney General candidate saying that he would, if he was in a room with Hitler and another dictator and the Republican from the Virginia House, that he would shoot the Virginia House person twice?
It's absolutely disgusting and despicable, and he has apologized. Did Trump ever apologize for Rob Reiner?
No, I said that he should have. I did say that he should have. I absolutely said that he should have. Yes.
Top-down leadership is just so damn weak. I mean, again, I don't mean to appeal to my age again, but this is a genuine experience that I've had. As somebody who wants to be able to look up to leaders and see somebody who I can model, I don't want to go to my class and start yelling "quiet piggy" at my teacher. I want someone that I can look up to and learn from. You know what I mean? I met President Obama a few months ago, and I learned a lot from being in that room. His presence and his ability to kind of let the conversation flow and keep track of everything. I just learned a lot from that human being. What I learned from Trump is that you should be a divisive asshole no matter what.
So again, I think that the perfuming really gross things, like when Obama lectured a bunch of black men to just suck it up and vote for a black woman because they owed it to black women to vote for one.
Yeah,
is kind of a disgusting
Obama
thing.
Gorilla video.
You can continue to say that regarding that entire situation. The president posting the weird Michigan election fraud thing, and at the end, very clearly, because it was screen recorded, so the captions could be on the screen.
Did he apologize for that, like Jay Jones did?
He did. He did condemn it. He absolutely condemned it.
I don't think he
apologized. Yes, he did. On Air Force One, the recording very clearly said, absolutely, I condemn the racist part at the end. That's why we took it down. That wasn't supposed to be posted. It was just supposed to be that particular, again, the election fraud claims from that investigation mini doc in Michigan.
I love when the president accidentally posts a racist video because he meant to post schizophrenic conspiracy theories about Michigan.
So, Tony, do you really believe that Donald Trump would never knowingly share racist imagery? I feel like he would. Yeah,
I mean,
and
you can feel like you would, but in this case, like if we're going to get real examples here, the idea that you can't have that President Trump is like equally like a big duttering, divisive, oath, stupid kind of drunken brawler, and also like an evil, racist, genius schemer guy. You can't have both. And that's what we were trying to do with this. Like, again, if you watch the whole video, it's clearly a screen recorded thing. At the end, it auto plays. It literally goes to the next video in the manner of that video codec to the next video, and then it ends immediately. It doesn't even play.
I mean, but the president's responsible for what he puts out on his platforms.
Absolutely is.
If he did not watch it to the end, that's like not worse, but differently bad.
It is differently bad. You are correct. It is differently bad. Is it worse? No. But is it differently bad? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all right. I think we can put a pin in that one for now and move to another kind of zoomed out topic where I think we'll probably find some more disagreement.